Good morning and welcome. My name is Stephen Rose. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager and Industry Lead with the Windows team in Redmond at the Microsoft headquarters. And we're here today to talk about the Windows 10 anniversary update. Currently, we are at over 350 million devices currently running Windows 10. That number is actually about 3 or 4 months old. We should have a new number in the next few weeks. 96% of enterprise customers are currently in an active Windows 10 pilot. And compared to Windows 7, we're at about 140% pace of growth, meaning in the same period of time from when Windows 7 was launched, we are not only equal to, but we're 40% beyond where we were at within the same time frame. When we sat down to develop Windows 10, our goal was to completely redesign the operating system from the ground up. Windows 10 is capable of running on a single gig of RAM and a 16, a very small hard drive. Much smaller footprint than what we saw with Windows 8 or even Windows 7, and actually smaller than Windows XP, which required a minimum of 2 megabytes in many cases to be able to run. As we step back, it was really to build 4 pillars, and then everything we do with Windows is built around that. And that is, how do we make Windows 10 the most secure and safe operating system we have ever built? How do we allow users to be more productive? How do we make the operating system more personal? And how do we partner with OEMs and other companies to create great, powerful, modern devices? And that's absolutely at the core. So let's take a look at some of this. We'll start with safer and more secure. Now, for the past year, we've been talking quite a bit about Windows 10 and all of the new functionality. We've talked about Windows Hello, which we've now migrated to Windows Hello for Business. Windows Hello for Business allows you to use biometrics, both the built-in biometrics you may already have on a laptop. If you don't have biometrics, there's great companies like BioKey that offers, $40 fingerprint readers that work with any hardware running Windows 10. Other companies, which then you can actually use biometrics to log into specific websites, grant access to documents, share, SharePoint, etc. So by leveraging Edge and the Microsoft Passport, you can actually not just create a single sign-on by logging on that once you're in with biometrics that you can get to any resources you want, but actually further secure those by ensuring that folks who are accessing this actually have permission to do so. Biometrics is absolutely critical. We see it as one of the biggest movements that we have, and our goal is to get rid of passwords. Passwords are the #1 reason why we have intrusions into corporate networks. It takes the average company close to 300 days to know that there has been an intrusion, and the largest percentage is people sending passwords back and forth over the internet, and that's what creates that the user really is that weakest link. We have close to 80% of network intrusions are because of those compromised user credentials. We've had 58% of people say that, that they've sent sensitive information to the wrong person, and that's right up to the CIO. And 1 out of 4 people that are a recipient of a phishing email open it. And partially it's because of education. The rest is just a lack of really great tools to be able to do this. Now, with the new Intel RealSense camera, which is greater than iris recognition, it actually does full facial recognition, which is actually the next level. While iris recognition is good, full facial recognition actually looks at 1,874 different parts of your face. You can't wear a mask. You can't do anything else. Iris is good, but this is actually better. And actually what we're seeing even beyond that now are bioelectric bands, which actually you put on, tap your finger, and it will actually allow to use your bioelectric fingerprint to access devices. Now, the Intel RealSense camera is not available on all devices. There are external ones, but this is where we find that fingerprint swipe devices, rather than fingerprint touch devices, are far more secure. What you don't want is a device that can actually take your whole fingerprint, like you might find on certain cell phones and certain devices. You want a swipe that only grabs part of your fingerprint. It's more secure. There are actually ways to grab your full fingerprint and reproduce it, so you want to be cautious with that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Windows Hello, Windows Information Protection, which you might have heard us talk about earlier in how we can secure your data when it leaves the device, and Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, Windows ATP. So let's start by talking about Windows Hello for Business. Windows Hello for Business is fully supported in Microsoft Edge, so you will have to be using Edge to be able to use Hello for Business, to be able to use your face or fingerprint, to be able to access websites. It is integrated into Windows Store apps. It does work with some companion devices right now by means of multi-factor authentication. If you're on an iPhone or an Android device, you can use the Windows Authenticator app as a way to be able to leverage that. And we're seeing a lot of new hardware that is going to be coming out in new accessories with biometric sensors that can be leveraged, like the fingerprint reader I talked about from BioKey. So the goal is to do that. One of the other things that we hear a lot is, why is a PIN code so good? How could a PIN code be more secure than a password? Well, it's very simple. When you log into something with a password, you're actually sending that password over the internet. While a PIN code, you have to have access to the local device, and the PIN code is stored locally. It's never sent over the internet, hence why a passcode requires physical access to the device. So why a PIN code is so great for that. We'll take a minute and see what kind of questions that we have. How will HoloLens interact with Windows 10? Well, HoloLens already does. Our HoloLens kits are fully supported with any Windows UWP app, Universal Windows Platform app. If you go to our HoloLens website, you will see great examples of how many companies are using it, and universities, like Case Western University is using it to train people on various medical aspects, everything from bone breaks to heart surgery, to Japan Airlines that's using it for training for aircraft engines and doing maintenance. NASA is using it right now. We have some really amazing companies that are using it. So it's available. They're about $3,000 per unit, but right now it's completely, it has ability to do it. And we've just announced some newer hardware that we're going to start to see this year that works even better with HoloLens, that's directly set to plug in and actually has additional feature functionality within the devices to better interact with HoloLens. I encourage you to go to blogs.windows.com to learn more about some of the great advances with HoloLens. Let's see. How does facial recognition measure depth as well? Could a picture or video be used? It actually cannot. It not only looks at 1,478 different aspects of your face, but it also looks for slight movements and changes in facial tone and color. It actually looks at your face much like a night vision goggles would, but it looks for that movement, where a mask is not going to have the subtle changes in colors or the movement in the face and neck. You can also, with Windows Hello, add an extra feature which says you must look left and right before being able to log in for additional security. This would basically ensures that there's no way to use a picture, no way to use a mask. Hello wouldn't recognize it, and that extra step ensures that. So it is one of the most secure ways to be able to log on, greater than a single fingerprint or any other movement out there. I'm going to do one more, and then I need to jump in. Down the line, will you allow biometrics with IE11 for Enterprise? No, we will not. Edge is our browser for the future. There will be no more advancements in IE11. The reason we kept IE11 in Windows 10 was to ensure backwards compatibility for all of our customers that have standardized on IE11, but we will continually see new features coming to Edge. Edge is our browser for the future. It is already as secure, if not more secure, than IE11 on many levels. So any innovations will only come to Edge. We're done. We're just going to keep patching IE11, making sure that it's secure, but you should start to test, and if you're interested in leveraging these features and functionality, you should start to test on Edge. All right, I'm going to jump back into our presentation. My team's going to answer some questions, and I'll come back and I'll answer some more in just a little bit. We had a feature that we used to refer to as EDP, Electronic Data Protection. That feature has been updated with a new name. It's now called Windows Information Protection. This requires that you do have Office 2016 and the latest version of Server or Server 2016 when that becomes available a little bit later. But very, very simply, but you have to have Windows 10. Windows 10 Office 2016 or O36516. And what this does is this allows you through group policy to be able to encrypt every document that is created and then remove access to those documents no matter where they live. Think about it. You could have a salesperson who downloads a list of all their customers, etc. They drop it into Box, OneDrive, they send it to their Gmail account, they put it on a USB drive. It doesn't make a difference. When they go to open it, it's going to call home, and the server is going to say, I'm sorry, this person no longer has access, and it will remove access to all of those. You'll see in the screenshot what looks like a little corporate building with a lock on it. That shows all of the applications that anything created or stored within those applications will be encrypted. Now, this can be done by person. I could say just Bob, everybody in HR, everybody in a specific office location, or everybody in the company, or even get granular and say only documents that contain one of these 100 words within it will be encrypted. You can also up that a level and say that anything that's in an encrypted document cannot be cut and pasted anywhere else. And if somebody does try to do it, let's say to Facebook or Twitter, it will actually pop up with a message saying, hi, you are about to paste encrypted confidential information into a public source. Are you sure you want to do this? By the way, this will be logged and sent to IT. Or it will just deny you. It's very granular. You can choose that level. But for those of you looking to increase your security, where BitLocker is great just to secure a hard drive, but people aren't yanking hard drives out of PCs anymore, where we really have an issue is that data and so much great free storage everywhere. How do we secure that? That Windows Information Protection is a great way to go ahead and do that. Moving forward with our third feature is a new product called Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, and this is available to our enterprise customers. What this does is this is now built into the Windows 10 Anniversary Update, so you will need your desktop clients to upgrade to this. But what this does is this takes a look at behavior-based breach detection. It's cloud-powered. There's no additional deployment or infrastructure that's required to be able to use this. It is great because what it will do is it will give you real-time data analysis. So very simply, what we take a look at that is the amount of time and energy, and that it's almost 200 days before we would detect threats, that we have great built-in functionality like data protection by moving to UEFI and turning off BIOS and older machines or moving to new machines without. We've removed that threat of pre-breach by not having a space from when BIOS loads and a gap till the OS loads. That's one of the key reasons why we want you to turn on UEFI when you migrate from Windows 7 to Windows 10, because now you're providing a secure infrastructure. That plus the data protection feature, identity protection, the threat resistance that's built in, the ability to separate personal apps from business apps and personal data from business data is great. But what we want to do is take ATP, which says, hi, this PC that logged in Redmond this morning at 9 a.m. logged in from Beijing at 10:30 a.m. There is no way that this person has gone, 2,000 miles in just an hour or two. We can see that there is potentially an issue. If we take a look at the interface as we see here, we can see that we can take a look at our different metrics view, our setups. Potentially, what it does is it's really looking for trends. Hey, this looks odd. This looks weird. We saw this pop up on this machine, and now it's come here. It's really giving you the view that companies don't have of their machines, and we're giving this to you for free with the enterprise SKU built in. So it's another way that we're really trying to move security forward and help our customers. And again, this is all new. I'm not sort of recapping a lot of the Windows 10 stuff that we've done. Let's go through and answer a few more questions. By turning on UEFI, we're not making ourselves vulnerable to the recent leak of the Windows Golden Key, which will allow backdoor access. No, you're not. The Golden Key, what it did was it allowed older machines like our Windows RT machines to be able to upgrade to newer versions of Windows, but to not be able to do it securely. It's for older devices that we said we're not going to allow to upgrade because of security issues, so that Golden Key only affects that. It's not going to affect any current devices on any level, so you don't need to worry about that, because inside of each machine, inside of your chipset, if using a Windows 8 hardware or above, you have an encrypted Kerberos certificate built into each machine that is unique, that we don't know what that is, and that's unique in connecting back and forth. We did the in-place Windows 10 upgrade. Now our users have a number of programs that we do not want on their PCs. Yes, if you are using Enterprise, you can remove those. If you're using the Education SKU, you can remove those. But if you did the free Pro upgrade, you will get some of the sponsored products on there. You can run scripts in some cases to remove those, but if you're doing the free upgrade, we're going to put some of those products on there. That's part of it as well. You've also heard that there will be some free sponsored advertising that will also be on those devices. If you want to control that and turn that off, we encourage you to take a look at Enterprise or some of the other SKUs. When the update started rolling out, when one of the PCs was getting its update, all the other PCs would disconnect from the domain and be useless. That sounds like an internal issue that really shouldn't happen. We have companies that have updated up to 2,500 PCs at once. What we recommend is if you're running Windows Enterprise to turn on the peer-to-peer networking. What that does is once one machine has the update, other machines can look to machines that hold bits for updates, patches, fixes, etc., and can actually pull from those machines and use that as an update. It's not a Windows 10 issue, nor part of that. We encourage you to take a look at your internal network. If you have additional questions, reach out to your Microsoft representative, and they can bring in one of our account technical specialists who can come in and help you and take a look. If you're also an enterprise customer, you have hours that can be used with Microsoft Consulting Services. They can come in and help, and you also get several cases that you can put in and have our engineering team work with you. What if we use Windows 10 Pro but not the upgrade, but we still get the sponsored advertising? No, if you have purchased a Windows 10 volume license and you've deployed it yourself, you will not get that. That's only for the people who took advantage of the free upgrade. Bring a public school. We're hoping that you're using the EDU SKU, where you're going to get additional functionality not available to consumers that allows you to turn off things like Cortana and other functionality that's not available to regular Pro users, but is available to our EDU users. Also, we've released some new software that allows you to provision machines and deploy them in about 4 steps. So we encourage you to check out our education pages. We'll put a link in the window that will drive you to it. I'm going to answer one more question, then I need to move on. Windows updates are impossible to manage in Windows 10. Documented technical articles on Windows Update for Business and WSUS contract themselves. I don't really understand what you mean by Windows Update are impossible to manage in Windows 10 and what you mean by that. What we recommend is that if you're using Windows Update for Business, that you do use System Center or WSUS Server. When those updates become available, you can block the Windows Update from being pushed out to those machines. You can do that or choose rings that your machines are updated. But with Windows Pro or Windows Enterprise, you have up to 18 months from the time that we release the anniversary update. We recommend you wait 90 days for all the patches and fixes to come out, and then you will have another 12 to 18 months after that date to go ahead and deploy those out to your users. There is a way to block your users from getting those updates from the web. We encourage you to look into that documentation and do that. It is actually very, very easy to manage. If you have System Center, it gets even easier. With WSUS, you can block that as well. There are some group policies. I encourage you to go to windows.com/IT Pro, go to our deployment section, and type in blocking updates. And that's a great way to be able to do that. Okay, I'm going to move on a bit. Again, my team's going to continue to answer questions, and we'll try to get through as many of these as we can. But I want to make sure that you're all fully aware of what's new and different in the anniversary update. 2 more features that we've added to Windows Enterprise that used to be part of our MDOP SKU is AppV, our desktop application virtualization tool, and UEV, our user experience virtualization. Very simply, what those are and what they do is great. Sorry, I didn't want to go to Microsoft Edge just yet. But AppV allows you to virtualize applications that are maybe not yet fully compatible in Windows 10, that you need a way to bridge until the compatible version is available for your users to use it. One of the more ingenious ways I've seen this used is if you're going to move users, let's say, to Office 2016, but you're on Office 2010, is with AppV, you can virtualize Office 2016. It will only require a small stream download the first time they use it, and they can actually use 2 different versions of Office simultaneously. While they're getting trained, they can start to use the new one and become familiar while not losing productivity on the old one, and then December 31st, the old one disappears and they continue to use the new one. UEV allows you to take all of the settings that make your PC unique, browser, background, desktop, bookmarks, settings, preferences, and migrate those across any machines that that user uses. It's sort of like the way that our live accounts used to work in Windows 8, where it would take your preferences and move them across, but this is being done at a more granular level, and it supports more functionality than just bookmarks and background patterns. For example, in Photoshop, it will migrate all of your filters and all of your preferences across to every machine you're running that runs Photoshop. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Take a moment and talk about Edge. With Edge, it is a great, quick, secure way to log on to websites. There's some great functionality on it, the ability to be able to write on a web page, be able to share that with other people. It is as secure as Windows as IE 11, and in many cases is now becoming more secure than IE 11. We still have the same tools that allow that backwards all the way back to IE 5. You can push out a list of websites to your proxy server that tell Edge, automatically render this as IE 5 rather than IE 11. So there's great backwards compatibility. There is built-in Cortana. There's a lot of really great functionality. You've also seen that it is the fastest browser out on the web. And now with the anniversary edition, you'll notice that if you you can now swipe back and forth. So if you're on a web page and you've gone a link deep, you can now swipe back to take yourself back a page. Great for pinch and zoom, great for being able to share a web page, markup, etc. So some really great stuff, and we encourage you, if you've not yet started to play with Microsoft Edge, especially because some of the key things like ad blocker and some of the password tools were not available. They are now. It now supports plugins, so we encourage you to check that out. Windows Store for Business, Cortana, I think we've talked about this a little bit. But we've talked about AppV, we've talked about UEV, so we're good there. What else? I think that's pretty much it. I want to kind of focus in on questions now. So let's go through some questions. I can't speak to Java plugins right now just because Java is not a secure technology. The thing that you are seeing is most websites are moving away from Java. Google has already pretty much killed it on their technology. We're encouraging our customers to move away from it. So if you have Java, you should really look at moving to XAML and the next generation technologies that are more secure and do that. So Edge will probably not, but I cannot speak to this 100%, will probably not support Java just because of all the holes in it and the problems with it. You still have IE 11 for that, but if you're running Java on websites, I encourage you to look at some of the newer technologies that will help you to better manage that. We're a large school district. Currently, we have Windows 10 Pro on about 10,000 devices. Since we have the SKU for the Enterprise and EDU version, how can we upgrade all these machines at once? Well, with EDU, we have some new tools that you can use to upgrade machines. It really depends on your infrastructure. It's not like a single push button. There's some different ways to do it. With Enterprise, you could use WSUS, and you could push it out to all machines. If you have EMS, those can be done over the wire. Again, I encourage you to go to windows.com/ITPro and go to our deployment section to learn more. For EDU, we'll put a link here in the window, so I won't put your question in as answered, and it will push out the link to get to the EDU site so you can see more about the new deployment and management tools to be able to do that. Is IE 11 the last iteration of Internet Explorer to be released? I said yes to that earlier. Sorry, Walter, if you were a little late. That's it. IE 11 will be the last version. Right now it is supported through 2025 and extended support, 2020 and mainstream support. So you still have about 4 more years. We actually reset the clock on IE 11 with the release of Windows 10. So you have until 2020, which is also when support for Windows 7 and Windows 8 in extended support end. We are already out of mainstream support for Windows 7 and in extended support, so hopefully you have an extended support agreement. So yes, this will be the last version of IE. Edge will be our new browser, so we encourage you to start playing with it, testing it, and starting to roll it out and pilot it within your organization. Will there be a Microsoft Edge for iOS? I can't speak to that and don't know at this point. Sorry on that one, Paul. Outside my range of knowledge. Jennifer was asking, yes, the presentation will be, this is being recorded, and we'll have some information, I believe, at the end that will tell you where to go ahead and where to get that. Microsoft had a strategy to do in-place upgrade of Enterprise Windows 7. In our testing, it has been quirky due to some legacy applications drivers that are installed. There are no plans, and we can't, and let me explain why. First of all, Windows 7 is BIOS-based. Starting with Windows 8, we went to a UEFI aspect. We completely changed large aspects of the code in Windows 7 to make it more secure. Windows 7 is now almost 9 years old at this point when we released the beta, 8 years after release. We did so many changes that it's impossible to do it. The other problem is in doing that, we're at about 98% compatibility with drivers and things on Windows 8 to Windows 10. We're in the 70%, and that's not because of us, that's because of companies that have chosen not to update drivers yet, or software that's old that should not run or cannot run on Windows 10. So there is not going to be an in-place upgrade for Windows 7. It would just be far too difficult, and too much of the operating system has to be removed. But what we have done is in Windows 10 is we have given you a way to upgrade from Pro to Enterprise, which is something that was not available in Windows 7 or Windows 8. You can now upgrade directly from Pro to Enterprise within the product, and that is something that you can do. It would just be far too difficult to do, and it would cause too many issues for that to happen, Roger. Let's see, more on Windows Update. For example, TechNet article says to enable Windows Update for Business, you need to defer upgrades. Yes, that's correct. You do want to defer those upgrades. So again, Brandy, and again, I encourage you to dig in a little bit deeper. There are a lot of webinars on how to deploy Windows 10 using WSUS, using System Center to deploy. I encourage you to watch those, which will talk about how to turn off your endpoints from going out and looking for the updates on their own. You do want to push out a group policy that says that Windows Update should be deferred, which then, and then a script that tells it to look at your WSUS server first, and then you can pick that out. I'm not going to dig too deeply in on deployment. We have a lot of other great webinars on that, so I encourage you to go check those out, but absolutely correct. Are we able to roll back after an update, and how long do we have to do that? You have 30 days. As long as you have not removed the windows.old folder, which normally sits there for 60 to 90 days. So you have 30 days once that happens, and then at that point you are then committed to the branch that you are on. Is there a minimum version of System Center Configuration Manager that's required to push out the anniversary update? No, but it will be starting with the next version. So starting with our next major update, you will be required to be on the current version of System Center and on current branch. So you will have to be on the latest version of System Center, plus we now have what we call CB, current branch. You will also have to be on current branch in order to push out Windows 10 starting with the next version. As of this one, you should be fine with System Center 2012 and any of those packs to be able to push out the anniversary update as it sits today. Why does Enterprise get all the cool bells and whistles? Pro users are left out in the cold. Well, Enterprise costs more, so those users are paying for the bells and whistles. Pro users, it's expected that you are only a limited number of seats. Basically, we look at anything between, like, what, 500 to 1,000 seats roughly as Pro, that what you're doing is limited, probably outsourced IT. If you're finding that you need MedV, AppV, ATP and some of these other functionalities, then you should really look at enterprise. You should reach out to your reseller. There are great deals and great opportunities to be able to get excellent pricing on enterprise, but what we don't want to do is charge people for features they're not using. Because then people say, why is it so expensive? I just want to connect to a domain and a bunch of shares. Great when you're in a law office with 15 people and they want to be able to do things securely, but again, with outsourced IT, things like that. If you're managing IT, if you have a lot of users in this functionality, then you should genuinely look at Windows Enterprise as being a good solution for your company. It's a great question, Vaden. Thank you. Okay. Still have time for some more questions. Hang on, I got a few more. Did that one get answered? Okay, so let's mark that as an answer. For the Kerberos ticket size, we're having an issue today. How will this be handled moving forward as moved to Windows 10? So this should begin to show out as we started rolling out single sign-on. I don't have an answer for that, Mark. Why don't you do this? I do have a Twitter handle. It is @StephenLRose. That's StephenLRose. Send that to me, and I will, send it to me as a private DM along with your email address, and I'll see what I can find out for you and get back to you on that. Other questions on Windows 10 anniversary update, things that you want to kind of know and understand about what we're doing and where we're going. I'm happy to answer. We have announced that we'll have 2 more updates to Windows 10 Anniversary Edition over the next year. Now, this is not next version like Anniversary Update was. We'll see 2 more granular updates within the next 12 months. When do we expect to see granular control over peer-to-peer Windows Update for Enterprise? Today, we have no view on which machines have updates cached, nor do we have control. It's a good question. You will see that in Server 2016. So if you're running 2016, you will have more granular control and group policies over that that will allow that to happen. So watch for Server 2016, which will allow that to happen. Will there be a new version of MDT? No, you do not need a new version. We released a new version for Windows 10. The Windows Anniversary Edition has not dramatically changed the core of Windows. It's just added some new functionality. Therefore, the current version of the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, along with MAP, ACT, and the other tools that are packaged with it are available. Again, I'll point you towards our deployment site where we have some great deployment kits and information at windows.com/ITPro. Thank you, Chris, for your question. Roger, can we leapfrog these major upgrades? For example, if we have 1511, skip 1607, and eventually go with Redstone 2. No, you will have to do these in order. And this is a good point to talk about long-term servicing branch. So you can't leapfrog. There will be some cumulative updates with updates, but you will have to be on current version unless you're using the VL builds. With that, you won't be able to do an in-place upgrade, but if you're doing a clean wipe and replace, when Redstone 2 becomes available, you can take the Redstone bits and you can wipe those machines and re-image it, but there is no way to skip on how that is based. Now, could that change? Absolutely. We are still a ways away from that. That's how it stands today. I did get a question on LTSB, long-term servicing branch, so let me explain what that is and the difference. So long-term servicing branch is a Windows Enterprise feature. And what it is it is very similar. It's actually our old Windows Industry and Windows Enterprise SKU. It is a version of Windows 10 without Cortana, without the App Store, and without the Edge browser, since those change with every update and get new feature functionality. It is a version of Windows that is fully supported for 10 years and will not have any major changes. So you can install the current long-term servicing branch today. It is recommended for machines that cannot reboot, that cannot do updates. Generally, air traffic controllers, if you work for electric or power, anything where a reboot could cause life and death consequences. Manufacturing lines, machinery lines, where it could cause injury or great loss, that we recommend that. Every 2 to 3 years, we'll come out with a new long-term servicing branch. At that point, you can choose to upgrade to the current one But as long as you hold an enterprise license, you are fully licensed for that long-term servicing branch for 5 years of mainstream and then 5 years of extended support. So it's a great way if you're saying, I work in a hospital, but I've got 50 machines that, you know what, these are running MRI and things like that, and I really don't want to risk there being an issue of that. That becomes a great way to do that. So that's something to take a look at. That is not available to pro users. That does require an enterprise license. So good stuff there. All right. Does Windows Information Protection work with older apps? It does, but in order for it with Office, it does require Office 2016 and Office 365 16. That framework is also available to other companies for them to build that into their products. Adobe is currently working on building that into their product. So that's a framework which is available to anyone. But you will want to take a look and you will want to check. Don't just assume that it can be done. You want to talk about that? I don't know the Windows CSP subscription. Okay, we'll skip that one. How is Windows Defender related to Windows Defender ATP? Windows Defender is the actual tool that is used to scan the device, to take a look at the signatures and the information. ATP is a way to grab that information. It goes up to the cloud and it compares it against other information that we're seeing from other organizations, bodies, and other companies that are sending us anonymous information saying, hi, we're starting to see a big outbreak of virus X. And in taking a look at your log, which is anonymous, it doesn't give us any information about the machines, it just gives us the Uber update on this. These are the machines that, you know, what it found, the machines that were not clean, and then it aggregates that data saying, hi, you should start to look for this. We're starting to see this pop up, your machines are starting to look for it, and it brings it into ATP and then looks for that. So what you're doing is it's taking all the companies and all the organizations that are using that, aggregating the anonymous data, and then allowing you to see trends based on that information, giving you a wider 360-degree view to be able to see that. Does Defender make something like spybot removal unnecessary, or should I still load those? Absolutely, it makes it unnecessary. First of all, if you're running Windows 10 with UEFI put in, and you're running Edge, you're not going to get spybots because immediately that browser is far more secure than any of the other third-party browsers. If you're running Chrome, if you're running Firefox, then you're probably going to need it. If you're running Edge, you are absolutely not going to need it because we have the most hardened browser on the planet, plus the Defender working with that will prevent that from happening. We have tons of ways where it cannot grab on, look at your information, and grab that information. But you do want to make sure you have UEFI turned on. If you're still not running UEFI and you're still running older BIOS, there is a potential that that could happen. So those are some things to look at, Tony. Are there specific lines of business or industry scenarios you think are a good fit for Windows 10? Absolutely. I think with the variety, we're seeing some really interesting and unique things happening. For example, hotels, we're seeing because now there is the ability to be able to buy Windows sub-$100 Windows dollar tablets, that we're seeing them really used in some amazing ways. Where we really see Windows 10 changing the industry are companies that are concerned about security. And that's really at the bottom line. They want a hardened operating system that is built for the security problems and issues that we see today, and that's what Windows 10 was built for. And while Windows 7 is a great operating system, it is old and it doesn't really fit the types of things that we're seeing today. In my comments about UEFI, I assume you also need Secure Boot as well to be really secure. Absolutely, you want to turn on Secure Boot. And that's part of that UEFI, which is going to do that. That's going to ensure from the moment you hit power on till you hit power on that you're secure, that there are no gaps for injection attacks, worm attacks, and things along that line. If you've turned on the defaults, plus you've used the default security profiles or a more hardened security profile, you're going to ensure that you'll be at that point. Absolutely. Chris asked, the new GPM templates within, are there new GPM? Yes, there are some new templates with Anniversary Edition. They're available on the server update, and they're going to be built in default to 2016, so look for that. Thanks. Please elaborate on the UEFI turn on. If you are running older hardware that you installed Windows 7, so let's take a step back. Windows 7, in general, could not run on UEFI. In later versions, it was able to, but in machines that are more than 2.5 years old, it's not supported. What you have to do is you will have to, through a script, and Dell has these available, so does Lenovo, when you go from Windows 7 to Windows 10, if you were not on Windows 8, you will need to turn on UEFI in the BIOS. Some older machines, it may require that this is a manual process, which means you're going to have to do a wipe and replace. On other machines, you can do it as part of an MDT task sequence. But you're going to want to turn that on, and you're going to want to understand, because what that does is that is going to allow you to use the system on a chip. It's going to allow you to use the built-in Kerberos with that, and it removes the BIOS, which would start up your system. So take a look at UEFI, take a look at your systems, and reach out to Dell, Lenovo, whoever is your provider of hardware, and say, hey, we're migrating to Windows 10. What do I need to do to turn on UEFI? Do you have a script that I could add to my upgrade package, assuming you're using MDT or System Center, that part of my task sequence that I can use to turn that on? And they will say, yes, for these machines you can, you can't, etc., or not. All right, Tony? Good question. Thank you. Matthew X, what is the driving factor to moving to Windows Update, logging into the event tracking for Windows ETW? It's a nice option. My personal experience has been the old method for logging was much more efficient, troubleshooting or monitoring UWA information. I don't know. I was not that deeply involved in the engineering decisions there, but I will tell you that any decisions that are made, we have about 150 companies that are part of our TAP program. These are some of the largest companies on the planet. We bring them into Redmond. We sit with them once a year and talk about what we're thinking about, what we're doing, and we get feedback from those companies on, hey, that would be great. This is a pain point if you thought about this. They come from a variety of different types of companies, from manufacturing to retail to education to government. And when we get that feedback, it really gives us a lot of information, and obviously we've received back a lot of feedback. We also look at anonymous telemetry. We look at where people click and where they're not and why aren't people doing things. So I guarantee you it's a combination of telemetry. We've gotten feedback that we've gotten from customers saying this would be better if we did it this way, and that's where it came from. We don't make decisions like that in a bubble. It's why we brought back things like the start menu, because people said, hey, we need a start menu. Please bring it back. We like the pin stuff, but we need this. We want you in, in the next version to make it so when I click on sound, I can switch my sound devices very easily. A feature we've added to the update. We have pens. We want to be able to scratch notes simply and easily, even on our lock screen. We want to be able to share messages back and forth between our devices. All of these are things we brought into the Anniversary Edition, and it's all based on feedback from you, our customers. So it's really critical, getting that telemetry, taking advantage and things like this, getting us your feedback becomes pretty critical. I've already talked earlier about the secure boot leak, where that only affected older RT devices. It doesn't affect newer devices, and it does not affect the security of newer devices. It was for older RT, which allows you to unlock those for an update, but now you're going around all of our secure features in it. So you're basically jailbreaking like you would an iPhone or an Android device, which could lead you into some issues. I have two nice motherboards that did not make the Windows 10 update because it said the video card was not supported. Any way to catch them up? You're going to have to reach out to the company. We don't pick what hardware will work and what hardware will not. If you have a printer that's not supported in Windows 10, that's not our decision. That's the decision of HP or Brother or Epson. There are points where companies say, this is now X amount of years old, and we have made so much better technology, we feel that our customers are doing themselves a disservice, and they want to sell new product. Companies want to do that from time to time. They do need to stay in business. So something that's not supported, we can't go out and build a driver if a company says we're only going to support these versions. It is the same that in 2020, There are going to be machines that will no longer be supported with Windows 7, that you'll have to move to Windows 10 with those. We did extend that, again, talking about feedback. We did the announcement that originally starting next June, we were going to stop supporting Windows 7 on a wide variety of hardware. That came from our OEMs and chip manufacturers. We got a lot of feedback saying we will not be done deploying by this point in time. This causes us a lot of pain, and we're not ready to start buying KB Lake devices with Windows 10 installed on them when those become available. So we pushed it back a year to 2018. We got even more feedback from a lot of large customers saying, still not going to make the date. We really need the full lifespan till 2020. We have 300,000 seats. So what happened? We've now extended out that date to 2020. So when Windows 7 and Windows 8 both end support, also will end support for any hardware running Windows 7. At that point, we're only going to be selling hardware that supports Windows 10. Why? We want to have TPM 2.0, the next version of UEFI, and all of those things that continue to make Windows more secure in every machine that we get at that point. All right, let's answer a few more questions. Again, going to the question on how come the largest hardware manufacturer, Intel, does not support millions of tablets and laptops equipped with common GMA graphics adapter series? That's a question for Intel. We can't answer questions on why Intel has made certain decisions. That's their decision. There is a wide variety, I'm sure, of reasons behind it. They don't just, I will tell you this, no company out there just does things to piss off people. Well, Apple does occasionally, but you don't like to say that. Like, hi, we're going to remove your microphone, your headphone port. I think they just kind of want to sell more Bluetooth on that one, but I don't want to get too pedantic. But in general, the goal is not to piss off consumers, but there's also a point where we do find that we can only continue to support legacy things more often. I will say this, Chrome only supports 3 years. Apple only supports 3 years, and they've said that if you're running any one of the iPads that are more than 3 years old, it's not supported. We're the only company on the planet that will have 5 years of mainstream and 5 years of extended support for our operating system. 10 years you can use any of these versions of Windows with a support agreement, and 5 years without one. And there is no other company on the planet that offers support for our operating system like that. When it comes to hardware, our OEMs, our partners, they choose what those policies are going to be, and we have to follow those. So I apologize. I understand what you're saying, but that's out of our control. That's their area of business, and we can't tell them what to do. It's the same when an application's not compatible to go ahead and do that. Will any functionality be lost in Windows 10 Pro once we install the anniversary update? Did you answer that one?
I'm working.
You'll have an answer for that in the window in just a moment. In Office 2016, will you bring back Clippy? No, Clippy is officially dead, so I think that we are good there. We have about 6 minutes left, so I want to make sure if you've not answered a question, I'm going to take a moment and kind of go back through the slides quickly for those who were late. Just to make sure that if there's any talking points or if you got in late, hey, I missed that. I was wondering if you talked about that. So we'll go to this slide. So give me a moment. So just to review, we talked about Windows Hello. We talked about Device Guard. We talked about the Windows Information Protection, the ability for you to encrypt documents and be able to remove access to them to anyone, no matter where those documents sit. We talked about the great new functionality in Windows ATP. We talked about Windows Hello for Business and how you can use biometrics to be able to log into specific websites using your finger, using your face, etc., even integrated into Windows Store apps. We've seen some really cool stuff. It's supported in Box. It's supported in websites, and you can build that in as well. And the value of replacing passwords with biometrics. The Windows Information Protection, which does require Windows 10, Office 2016, or Office 365 16. We talked about the Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, which is built into every Windows 10 PC, but the software to manage it, look for trends, is an enterprise feature that is available for our enterprise customers. We talked about breach and attacks and how long it is until you're actually able to see those and see what percentage of systems have malware and don't, and how we have gone beyond just offering the security of Windows 10 and bringing in ATP to help give you a better way to telegraph and understand that information. We talked a little bit about AppV, Windows Inc., Microsoft Edge, how our new Edge browser is a quick and more secure way that there'll be no new feature functionality coming to IE 11, that you can bookmark, you can share pages, you can write on pages. It is the fastest browser out on market, and we now do support plugins with more plugins coming. We didn't talk about the Windows Store for Business. In Windows Enterprise, you do have the ability to create a Windows Store for Business. This means you can create a store that has apps that you have built or apps that you have volume license purchased for your employees and put them into a store that is available to your employees. This can be done with Windows Intune and either the Pro or Enterprise feature. Cortana for Business, that connects to your business analytics, so you can say, what are my sales like this month? Which region is having the biggest issues? And you can use your voice to interact with Power BI and other features like that. We talked about UEV and AppV now being built into the Enterprise SKU, and we'll go back to questions because it seems like we've gotten a few more. Will that act like WSUS? Will what act like WSUS? WSUS is WSUS. WSUS is our free deployment server. If you would like to upgrade and get more analytics, we encourage you to move to System Center, which will give you analytics and more control over that. Can you expand on Cortana for Business? Absolutely. It plugs into Power BI. It plugs into all of our cloud technology, so you can use it if you are using any of our business services in the cloud to be able to ask by voice to get answers and analytics around that. The Store for Business, no. The Store for Business requires Windows Intune or System Center to be able to do that. You can then set that up via policy, so you can then push that out to your users, but it will require one of those two, and you do have to have the Enterprise SKU or the Pro SKU to be able to do that. I want to watch this again. Yes, we will put up a link for this shortly, so at the end we will tell you where the recording is available. Any more questions? Oh, there's one down here. Leapfrogging updates. Yes, leapfrogging updates is only supported if you have Enterprise and if you want to do the full bits and push that out as of today. We may change that with Redstone 2 and say, for those of you that are on Windows 10 and didn't do Anniversary Edition, we'll let you, but as of right now, that is not supported. You do have to go from branch to branch to branch to branch, and I would assume that will not change. So you will have to be on Anniversary Edition, also known as Redstone 1, before you can go to Redstone 2. You will not be able to go from Windows 10 to Redstone 2 directly. It's not a cumulative update. It builds upon what's already in the system. Could that change in the future? Possibly, but as of right now, no. The biggest reason why, it would make the update very, very large for the average person. We're trying to keep the update as small as possible, and our goal with the next release is to reduce that size of the update even further. Average time for Anniversary Update was somewhere between 27 and 45 minutes. Our goal is to get that down well under 30 in the future. So that's our goal there. A few more questions. Is the Windows 10 bandwidth when it's connecting and downloading different wallpaper or login on the Enterprise? No, it should actually be smaller unless you're still using something like roaming profiles, which we hope you're not using. So no, it should be smaller and thinner. We actually reduced 40% of the code from the Windows runtime, so that should be considerably easier to do. Do Windows 10 upgrades automatically remove software deemed incompatible with no notice? No, it does not. It may remove some driver packages, like I did find in Lenovo. It said this no longer works, So it's not going to remove it, but what it will do is in the Windows.old, it will disable it, because what it doesn't want is a piece of software that you try to launch that doesn't work. So what that will mean, for example, on my Lenovo, Lenovo came out with an update yesterday that said, here's a update for Windows Anniversary to our system admin center for your local PC. And then I installed that. It was part of the update service and did it. So it's not going to remove software, but if there's software that's not going to work, that is software that not third-party but is required for generally HP's own software, Lenovo's own software, if it's not going to work and it's not called out, it will disable it, not uninstall, but it will disable it, and it will move it to the Windows.old folder. Hope that answers your question, Chris. Why is System Restore turned off during the update to the Anniversary Edition? We've changed that process a bit. I encourage you to go out to windows.com/IT Pro, click under Deployment and Recovery. There's a whole section on it on how that's changed. We've changed how that works. We haven't really disabled it. Take a look at how that has changed out. I haven't heard about a reboot cycle or sputtering performance. I encourage you to go out to our forums and take a look, and again, go to blogs.windows.com as we have updates. The forums are a great way to see that if there is an issue, what's been released, if there are any patches. We haven't heard about that. We have heard some people have gotten stuck at the boot screen, and we are going to have a patch this week, but we want to make sure we test it for everyone. It was a very small number, less than 1%. Will OneDrive for Business work with local managed storage space or only with O365? It is an O365 product. It will only work with Office 365. Now, what you can do is you can redirect your local user folders like documents, etc., to folders that you've built in OneDrive for Business and redirected those so that everything on the local user machine is there, and then through a group policy you can pick, but no, you're not going to be able to use local storage. You will be able to use our cloud storage. That ensures that no matter where anybody is at on the planet, that those documents are available to them, rather than on a local storage, which may require a VPN or ways to log in that can cause great frustration. I think that's all I have time for because we are at 1 hour. Lots of great questions. I do want to thank everybody who joined us today. We'll have some information in just a moment on how to go to the replay. Once again, my Twitter handle is @StephenLRose. That's StephenLRose. Feel free to follow me, DM me with questions. I'm happy to answer those. Please check out the websites that we talked about earlier. One is the windows.com/IT Pro, which is our tech center. And Maris, what was the other one that folks should be aware of?
So all of the webinars that Stephen was talking about is available for you to be able to view through aka.ms/Windows 10 Web Series, and we'll send out that link as well.
aka.ms/Windows 10 Web Series.
Yes.
That's where you go. And that's where this one will be as well. Excellent, great questions. Thank you very much for a great use of my time today and answering your questions. I love the excitement around the Windows 10 Anniversary Edition and how many of you. We're going to continue to make Windows as great as we can. Keep giving us your feedback. Keep telling us how we can do better, and we will keep trying to do that for you. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you very soon.